In the heart of Willow Creek, a town so small it barely registered on most maps, lived Sarah. She wasn't a CEO or a famous inventor. Sarah was a mechanic, a simple woman with grease under her fingernails and a heart as big as the sky. Her small garage, tucked away beside Mrs. Gable's bakery, was her kingdom. Inside, she could coax life back into sputtering engines and mend broken machines with a touch that seemed almost magical. Everyone in Willow Creek knew Sarah. They knew her for her kindness, her unwavering smile, and her uncanny ability to fix anything. From Farmer McGregor's tractor to little Timmy's broken toy car, Sarah could make it work again. She never asked for much, just enough to keep the lights on and maybe buy a new wrench or two. Far away, in a gleaming skyscraper overlooking a bustling city, lived Mr. Sterling. He was the CEO of Sterling Motors, a giant in the car industry. Mr. Sterling was known for his innovative, albeit complicated, engine designs. He was also known for his arrogance. He believed he was the best and that no one could match his engineering genius. His latest creation was a marvel of engineering, an engine so complex that even his own engineers struggled to understand it. He declared it unfixable, a challenge to the world. Little did he know his path would soon cross with a simple mechanic from Willow Creek, and his world would never be the same. Sarah's skill wasn't just about knowing which wrench to use. It was about listening to the engine, feeling its vibrations, understanding its needs. She could tell if a car was happy or sad just by the way it purred or didn't. She treated every machine with respect, believing that even the most stubborn engine had a story to tell. Her workshop was a testament to her resourcefulness. Old tools hung neatly on the walls, alongside calendars featuring classic cars and hand-drawn diagrams of engine parts. Scraps of metal and spare parts were organized into bins, each labeled with Sarah's careful handwriting. The air smelled of oil, grease, and a hint of Mrs. Gable's apple pie, which often found its way into Sarah's grateful hands. The townsfolk often said Sarah had a gift, a special connection to machines. But Sarah knew it wasn't magic. It was hard work, dedication, and a genuine love for what she did. She had spent countless hours tinkering with engines, learning from her mistakes, and always striving to improve. She learned from her grandfather, who was a mechanic as well. He always said, "The engine will speak to you if you listen." And she listened. As Mr. Sterling finalized his plans to showcase his unfixable engine, Sarah was busy repairing Mrs. Gable's ancient bread mixer. Little did she know, her quiet life in Willow Creek was about to be disrupted by the arrival of the arrogant CEO and his impossible machine. Mr. Sterling wasn't just rich, he was dripping with wealth. His suits were tailored in Italy, his shoes were handcrafted in England, and his watch cost more than Sarah's entire workshop. He had a team of assistants who catered to his every whim and a private jet that whisked him around the world. But more than his money, Mr. Sterling loved attention. He craved the spotlight and reveled in the admiration of others. He saw his unfixable engine not just as an engineering achievement, but as a testament to his own brilliance. He planned to tour small towns across the country, showcasing his creation and basking in the awe of the locals. He imagined them marveling at his genius, whispering about his wealth, and acknowledging his superiority. His arrogance blinded him to the possibility that someone, somewhere, might actually be able to fix his engine. He truly believed it was impossible. He had designed it to be so complex, so intricate, that only he, with his vast knowledge and resources, could even begin to understand it. And so, with his entourage in tow, Mr. Sterling set off on his self-proclaimed victory tour, completely unaware that his path was about to lead him to a small, unassuming garage in Willow Creek, and to a woman who was about to challenge everything he thought he knew. He was coming to Willow Creek. The arrival of Mr. Sterling and his entourage was the most exciting thing to happen in Willow Creek in decades. A fleet of shiny black cars pulled into the town square, disrupting the usual quiet. Men in crisp suits jumped out, fussing over Mr. Sterling and his precious engine. The engine itself was a sight to behold, a gleaming monstrosity of chrome and wires unlike anything the townspeople had ever seen. Mr. Sterling wasted no time in gathering the townsfolk. He stood on a makeshift stage, the engine displayed proudly behind him. With a booming voice, he declared, "Behold, the Sterling engine, a marvel of modern engineering. An engine so complex, so intricate that no one, and I mean no one, can fix it if it breaks down." He paused for dramatic effect, surveying the crowd with a smug grin. "I challenge anyone here to even try. It is, quite simply, unfixable." The townsfolk murmured amongst themselves, impressed but also a little intimidated. They had never seen anything like this engine or anyone like Mr. Sterling. Sarah, who had been watching from the back of the crowd near her garage, simply shook her head. He was so proud of an engine that didn't work. He didn't even know what he was saying. She had a sneaking feeling she could fix it, and all of that arrogance made her more certain. As Mr. Sterling continued to boast about his engine, Sarah listened intently, her eyes narrowing slightly. She wasn't intimidated by the engine's size or complexity. Instead, she saw it as a puzzle, a challenge to be solved. The more Mr. Sterling bragged, the more determined she became. It wasn't just arrogance that fueled her. It was the engine itself. Even from a distance, Sarah could sense something was off. It was like a beautiful song played slightly out of tune. The engine had potential, but something was holding it back. She imagined herself working on it, tracing the wires, examining the gears, listening to its hum. She could feel the engine's frustration, its desire to run smoothly. A plan started to form in her mind, a series of steps she would take to diagnose the problem and bring the engine back to life. Back in her garage, surrounded by her familiar tools, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. She knew she could do it. She might be a simple mechanic from a small town, but she had a gift, a passion, and a determination that Mr. Sterling couldn't even begin to understand. She had to find a way to get close to that engine. She had to try. She started cleaning her tools, getting ready for her biggest challenge yet. The next morning, Sarah approached Mr. Sterling. The crowd parted, surprised by her boldness. "Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I believe I can fix your engine." Mr. Sterling burst out laughing. "You? Fix my engine? A simple mechanic from this little town." He looked her up and down, a condescending smile on his face. "That's absurd." But he continued, his eyes gleaming with mischief, "I do enjoy a good challenge. Especially when the odds are so heavily in my favor." He addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I propose a wager. If this mechanic can fix my engine, I will give her," he paused for dramatic effect, "$10,000. The crowd gasped. That was more money than most of them earned in a year. "But," he added, his voice dripping with arrogance, "if she fails, she must publicly admit that my engine is, indeed, unfixable and, furthermore, wash all my cars for a month." Sarah didn't flinch. She looked Mr. Sterling straight in the eye. "I accept," she said simply. The crowd erupted in a mix of excitement and apprehension. They knew Sarah, they trusted her, but this was Mr. Sterling's engine, the unfixable engine. Was she biting off more than she could chew? Only time would tell. Mr. Sterling smiled. This was going to be fun. Despite her confident acceptance, Sarah knew this would be the hardest thing she had ever done. Mr. Sterling's laughter echoed in her ears, a constant reminder of the ridicule she would face if she failed. The townspeople, while supportive, couldn't hide their worry. Mrs. Gable brought her an extra apple pie, but her eyes held a hint of concern. Even Farmer McGregor, usually optimistic, patted her on the back with a somber look. Mr. Sterling, on the other hand, seemed to revel in her challenge. He spent the rest of the day making jokes at her expense, boasting about his engine's complexity and generally enjoying his role as the superior intellect. He even brought over some of his cars to prepare Sarah for her month of car washing, should she fail. But Sarah refused to be discouraged. She focused on the engine, visualizing the repairs and mentally preparing herself for the task ahead. She knew she had the skills, the knowledge, and the determination to succeed. She just needed a chance. That evening, after everyone had gone, she went back to the town square and touched the engine for the first time. It was warm. She thought to herself, "I will fix you." Then she headed home to get some sleep, ready to start early in the morning. The challenge had begun. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the town square bright and early, her toolbox in hand. Mr. Sterling and his team were already there, watching with amusement. She ignored them and got straight to work. The engine was even more complex up close than she had imagined. Wires snaked around gears and pipes twisted in ways that seemed almost illogical. She started by checking the basics, the fuel lines, the spark plugs, the battery. Everything seemed to be in order. But as she delved deeper, she encountered problem after problem. A sensor was miscalibrated, a valve was stuck, and a circuit board was fried. Each time she fixed one issue, another seemed to pop up in its place. Mr. Sterling and his team watched her every move, occasionally offering sarcastic comments and shaking their heads in disbelief. "Having fun yet, little mechanic?" Mr. Sterling would quip. Days turned into nights as Sarah worked tirelessly on the engine. She skipped meals, lost sleep, and pushed herself to the limit. The townspeople brought her food and coffee, offering words of encouragement. But even their support couldn't mask the growing sense of doubt. The engine seemed determined to remain unfixable. Sarah started to wonder if Mr. Sterling was right. Maybe this engine was beyond her. But she refused to give up. She had come too far. She would keep trying until she found the solution. Sarah closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her. Suddenly, she was a child again, small and covered in grease, standing beside her grandfather in his own cluttered workshop. "Grandpa," she'd ask, "how do you know what's wrong?" Her grandfather, a kind man with twinkling eyes and a gentle smile, would chuckle. "The engine tells you, Sarah. You just have to listen." He'd place her small hand on the warm metal. "Feel it? The vibrations? That's the engine talking. It's telling you where it hurts." He taught her everything he knew: how to use a wrench, how to read a diagram, how to diagnose a problem by sound and touch. He taught her that every engine, no matter how old or broken, had a story to tell. He taught her patience, perseverance, and the importance of treating every machine with respect. He always said, "An engine is like a heart, Sarah. It needs care, attention, and a little bit of love." Sarah remembered spending hours with him, tinkering with old cars, learning the ins and outs of every engine. He never rushed her, never made her feel stupid, and always encouraged her curiosity. He was her mentor, her friend, and her biggest supporter. Now, standing in the town square, facing the impossible engine, Sarah realized that her grandfather's lessons were more important than ever. She had to listen to the engine. She had to feel its vibrations. She had to remember everything he had taught her. She opened her eyes, renewed determination blazing within. She knew what she had to do. Sarah returned to the engine, but this time she didn't reach for her tools. Instead, she closed her eyes and placed her hand on the cold metal. She focused on the vibrations, listening to the engine's subtle hum. She remembered her grandfather's words: "The engine will tell you where it hurts." She spent a long time just listening, feeling, and focusing. Slowly, she began to understand. The engine wasn't just a collection of parts, it was a complex system, a delicate balance of forces. And somewhere within that system, there was a blockage, a disruption in the flow. She realized that the problem wasn't with any single component, but with the engine's overall design. Mr. Sterling, in his arrogance, had tried to cram too much technology into one engine, creating a system that was inherently unstable. The engine was suffocating itself. The solution, Sarah realized, wasn't to replace a part or adjust a setting. It was to simplify the design, to remove the unnecessary complexities, and to allow the engine to breathe. It was a radical idea, one that Mr. Sterling would likely scoff at. But Sarah knew in her heart that it was the right approach. She finally knew where to start. She grabbed her tools, a determined glint in her eyes. The real work was about to begin. Sarah's approach surprised everyone, especially Mr. Sterling and his team. Instead of replacing parts, she started removing them. Wires were disconnected, sensors were bypassed, and entire modules were carefully detached from the engine. "What are you doing?" Mr. Sterling demanded, his voice laced with disbelief. "You're ruining it." Sarah ignored him, focusing on her work. She knew that what she was doing looked crazy, but she trusted her instincts. She was simplifying the engine, stripping it down to its essential components. As she worked, Mr. Sterling and his team began to notice something. The engine, despite being stripped down, was starting to look healthier. The vibrations were smoother, the hum was more consistent, and the overall appearance was less strained. They started to whisper amongst themselves, exchanging glances of confusion and dawning respect. They had never seen anyone approach an engine like this before. They had always relied on complex tools and intricate diagnostics. Sarah was using her intuition, her knowledge, and her grandfather's lessons to achieve something they thought was impossible. Mr. Sterling started to sweat. He began to wonder if he had underestimated this simple mechanic. His arrogance was slowly giving way to a grudging admiration and a growing sense of unease. What if she actually succeeded? As Sarah continued to work, the townspeople of Willow Creek rallied around her. They saw her dedication, her perseverance, and her unwavering belief in herself. They knew she was fighting not just for herself, but for the pride of their small town. Mrs. Gable baked her extra pies and brought them to the town square every day. Farmer McGregor offered his strongest coffee to keep Sarah awake during the long nights. Little Timmy, whose toy car Sarah had fixed, brought her flowers he had picked from his garden. The townspeople also helped in practical ways. They fetched tools, ran errands, and kept the area clean. They even formed a human shield around Sarah, protecting her from Mr. Sterling's constant taunts and distractions. Their support gave Sarah the strength to keep going, even when she felt like giving up. She knew she wasn't alone. She had the entire town of Willow Creek behind her, cheering her on. Their belief in her renewed her confidence and fueled her determination. She wouldn't let them down. She would fix that engine, not just for herself, but for everyone in Willow Creek. They were her family, her friends, and her inspiration. Their love and support made all the difference. She smiled, feeling grateful and ready to face the final challenge. After days of tireless work, Sarah reached the final obstacle, a faulty fuel injector that was preventing the engine from starting. She had tried everything she could think of, but nothing seemed to work. Exhausted and frustrated, she sat down on the ground, her head in her hands. She was so close, yet so far. She couldn't give up now. She thought of her grandfather, of the townspeople, of her own pride. She took a deep breath and stood up, renewed determination in her eyes. She went back to the engine and examined the fuel injector one last time. Suddenly, she noticed something she had missed before, a tiny crack in the housing. It was almost invisible, but it was enough to cause the fuel to leak, preventing the engine from starting. With steady hands, she carefully sealed the crack with a special epoxy. She waited for it to dry, her heart pounding with anticipation. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. She turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life. A cheer erupted from the crowd. Sarah had done it. She had fixed the unfixable engine. The sound of the engine was music to everyone's ears. The engine was purring. Sarah smiled, relief washing over her. She had overcome the final obstacle and proven that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and a little bit of heart. She looked at Mr. Sterling, who was standing speechless, his face a mixture of shock and admiration. The game was over. Sarah had won. Mr. Sterling stood there stunned. He couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. The engine that his own team of engineers had declared unfixable had been brought back to life by a simple mechanic from a small town. He walked slowly towards Sarah, his face etched with disbelief. I don't understand, he stammered. How did you do it? Sarah smiled. I listened to the engine, she said simply. It told me what it needed. Mr. Sterling looked at the engine, then back at Sarah. He saw the grease on her hands, the determination in her eyes, and the pride in her smile. He realized that he had been so focused on complexity and technology that he had completely overlooked the importance of simplicity and intuition. He took a deep breath and extended his hand to Sarah. You were right, he said, his voice humble. My engine wasn't unfixable. It was just misunderstood. I was arrogant and I underestimated you. You have a remarkable gift. He pulled out his checkbook and wrote her a check for $10,000. The crowd cheered, celebrating Sarah's victory and Mr. Sterling's newfound humility. He had learned a valuable lesson that day, a lesson that would change him forever. He realized that true brilliance wasn't about wealth or status, but about skill, dedication, and a willingness to listen. He looked at Sarah with respect. He was humbled. Sarah didn't keep the prize money for herself. The first thing she did was fix Mrs. Gable's bread mixer, replacing its worn-out motor with a brand new one. Mrs. Gable was overjoyed and the whole town celebrated with fresh apple pie. Next, she used the money to improve her workshop. She bought new tools, organized her supplies, and even installed a new lighting system. Her workshop became a haven for anyone in Willow Creek who needed something fixed. But Sarah didn't stop there. She knew that many people in her community couldn't afford car repairs, so she started offering free service days. She fixed cars for single mothers, veterans, and elderly residents, ensuring that everyone had reliable transportation. She also used some of the money to start a scholarship fund for local students who wanted to pursue careers in mechanics or engineering. She wanted to inspire the next generation of problem solvers and innovators. Sarah's generosity and kindness touched the hearts of everyone in Willow Creek. She became a symbol of hope and inspiration, proving that even the smallest act of kindness can make a big difference. She showed them that true wealth wasn't about money or possessions, but about helping others and making the world a better place. Her workshop was always open. She was always there to lend a hand. Sarah had truly transformed her community. A few days later, Mr. Sterling returned to Willow Creek. He found Sarah working in her newly renovated workshop, surrounded by happy customers. He approached her with a serious expression on his face. Sarah, he said, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I realize that my company needs someone like you. Someone who understands engines but also understands people. He offered her a job at Sterling Motors as a lead engineer. He promised her a generous salary, state-of-the-art equipment, and the opportunity to work on groundbreaking projects. Sarah was surprised by the offer. She had never imagined working for a big corporation, let alone one run by Mr. Sterling. But she also recognized the potential. She could use her skills and knowledge to make a real difference in the world. I'm honored by your offer, Mr. Sterling, she said. But I have to think about it. My life is here, in Willow Creek. I have responsibilities to my community. Mr. Sterling nodded understandingly. I respect that, he said. Take your time. But please consider it. I believe you have the potential to change the world. He waited for her answer. He truly wanted her on his team. He knew she was the one that could make a difference. Sarah thought long and hard. Should she leave her town? Would she be able to adapt to such a different environment? After much consideration, Sarah made her decision. She called Mr. Sterling and invited him back to Willow Creek. "Mr. Sterling," she said, "I've decided to accept your offer. But I have a condition." Mr. Sterling raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A condition?" "Yes," Sarah replied. "I will only work for Sterling Motors if I can use my skills to help others. I want to design engines that are not only powerful and efficient but also affordable and accessible to everyone. I want to create engines that are easy to fix so that anyone, even someone without a lot of money, can keep their car running." She continued, "I also want to start a program at Sterling Motors to train young mechanics from underprivileged backgrounds. I want to give them the same opportunity that my grandfather gave me." Mr. Sterling was taken aback by her request. He had expected her to ask for more money or a bigger office. He hadn't anticipated her desire to help others. But he was also impressed by her selflessness and her vision. "I accept your condition, Sarah," he said with a smile. "I believe that your ideas can make a real difference in the world. And I'm honored to have you on my team." Sarah smiled. She knew she had made the right decision. She was leaving Willow Creek, but she was taking her values with her. She was going to use her skills to make the world a better place, one engine at a time. Sarah's arrival at Sterling Motors was met with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Many of the engineers, used to complex designs and cutting-edge technology, didn't know what to make of this simple mechanic from a small town. But Sarah quickly won them over with her knowledge, her work ethic, and her genuine kindness. She listened to their ideas, offered her own insights, and always treated everyone with respect. She showed them that simplicity could be just as effective as complexity, and that the best solutions were often the most intuitive. She revolutionized the way Sterling Motors designed engines. She championed the development of more affordable and accessible engines, making them easier to fix and maintain. She also established a training program for young mechanics, giving underprivileged students the opportunity to pursue their dreams. Sarah's influence extended beyond the engineering department. She inspired a culture of kindness and humility throughout the company. She showed everyone that true success wasn't just about making money, but about making a difference in the world. She proved that technical skill was important, but that kindness and humility were just as valuable. Mr. Sterling was proud to have her on his team. She was a shining star. He was a better person because of her. He always listened to her now. Sarah's story spread far and wide, inspiring people all over the world. She became a symbol of hope, showing that anyone, no matter their background or circumstances, can achieve great things with hard work and a good heart. Children read about her in school, learning that kindness and humility are just as important as intelligence and skill. Mechanics admired her ingenuity and her ability to listen to engines. CEOs learned the importance of valuing their employees and giving back to the community. Mr. Sterling, transformed by his experience, became a champion of social responsibility. He used his wealth and influence to support education and job training programs, helping to create opportunities for underprivileged individuals. And Sarah? She continued to work at Sterling Motors, designing engines, training young mechanics, and making the world a better place, one engine at a time. She never forgot her roots in Willow Creek, and she often returned to visit her friends and family, always ready to lend a hand or offer a word of encouragement. Her story became a reminder that true success isn't about wealth or fame, but about making a positive impact on the lives of others. It showed that anyone can be a hero, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem. All it takes is a good heart, a willingness to work hard, and a belief in yourself. Sarah's legacy lived on.